In the echo of a lost chord, Herbert found not just answers but also the chance to change the melody of his own life. The True Feeling of Being Truly Alone, by Thomas Miller. Chapter 1. The Silent Nights. Could this be the real story of author Thomas Miller? A tale that tugs at the heartstrings, a story of pain, isolation, and the yearning for connection. The Florida summer wraps itself around me like a suffocating blanket, a relentless and oppressive heat that seeps into every corner of my being. The nights are no different. They oscillate between a stifling stillness and a humid, clinging warmth that offers no respite. Each evening, as the sun dips below the horizon, a quiet terror settles in my chest. The loneliness becomes palpable, a silent scream echoing in the stillness. My name is Giles Bloomingfeld, and this is my story. It is a story of solitude, a journey through the dark corridors of isolation, and the search for a connection that seems perpetually out of reach. I cry out for someone to hear me, to acknowledge my existence, but my cries are swallowed by the oppressive night. The hot air outside lacks the fury and anger I feel within. My anger is a storm, a raging tempest, but it is a storm that is met with indifference. I fear dying alone in this room, in this house. The thought that no one would notice my absence, that I would simply fade away without a trace, is a fear that grips me with icy fingers. I am afraid of life, afraid of death, afraid of everything in between. Rejection is a knife that cuts deep, and I have felt it sting too many times to count. The first have not known the touch of another human being for 29 years. 29 years without love, without intimacy, without the warmth of another soul beside me. I have friends, or at least people I call friends. They are acquaintances, drifting in and out of my life like ghosts. They will forget about me, I know they will. They will move on, their lives continuing without a hitch, while I am left to wonder if anyone would look for me if I vanished. I bet not. The only true companion I have is my dog, Velvet. Velvet is my world, my anchor in this turbulent sea of loneliness. She is the greatest dog, a loyal friend who never forgets, never judges. She is always there, her presence a balm to my wounded soul. A dog's love is pure, untainted by the complexities and betrayals of human relationships. Velvet's unconditional love is a lifeline, a reminder that I am not completely alone. My neighbor, Brennan, often says, "A dog is a great thing in the world, he is right." Velvet is my comfort, my confidant, my only source of warmth in a world that has turned its back on me. Chapter 2. The Disappearing Act. The world keeps spinning, indifferent to my suffering. People come and go, their lives intersecting with mine briefly before they move on, leaving me in the shadows. Those who were once close, who promised to be there, have drifted away. They were never truly there to begin with, their presence an illusion, their promises empty. I see them sometimes, these ghosts of my past. They move through life with ease, their smiles bright, their laughter carefree. They have families, careers, futures. I watch them from a distance, a silent observer of a world that has no place for me. Their happiness feels like a mockery, a cruel reminder of everything I have lost, everything I will never have. Fake people they are. Their kindness was always a facade, their concern a mask. They were never truly my friends, never truly cared. When I needed them the most, they vanished into the night, leaving me to face my demons alone. Their betrayal is a wound that never heals, a constant ache that reminds me of my own inadequacy. Chapter 3. The Unchanging World. The world is full of people like them, people who pretend to care but never do. They move on, leaving a trail of broken promises and shattered hopes in their wake. They never change. They are the same, always drifting away, always disappearing when things get tough. They are like the wind, here one moment and gone the next. I have learned to expect nothing from them. I have learned that the only one I can truly rely on is Velvet. Her love is real, her loyalty unwavering. She is my constant, my only source of stability in a world that is constantly shifting and changing. I often wonder if anyone will remember me when I am gone. Will anyone mourn my passing, or will I simply fade away, forgotten and alone? The thought haunts me, a shadow that looms over every moment. I am afraid of being forgotten, afraid that my existence will leave no mark on this world. Chapter 4. A lonely soul. The nights are the hardest. The silence is deafening, the loneliness overwhelming. I lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts and fears. I long for someone to hold, someone to share my life with, but that dream seems more distant with each passing day. I am Giles Bloomingfeld, and this is my life. It is a life of solitude, of quiet desperation, of longing for a connection that may never come. I am alone, truly alone, and the weight of that loneliness is a burden I carry every day. But in the darkness, there is one light. Velvet, my faithful companion, my source of comfort and love. As long as she is by my side, I can endure. Her presence gives me strength, her love gives me hope. She is my anchor, my lifeline, my reason to keep going. And so I continue. I face each day with a mixture of fear and hope, clinging to the small moments of joy that Velvet brings. I am alone, but I am not completely lost. As long as I have Velvet, I have something to hold on to, something to cherish. And maybe, just maybe, that will be enough to carry me through. Chapter 5. The Echoes of Yesterday. The days blend together, an endless cycle of monotony and despair. I walk through the familiar rooms of my house, each corner a silent witness to my solitude. The walls hold memories of better times, echoes of laughter that have long since faded. They remind me of what I once had, of the connections I have lost. I often sit by the window, Velvet by my side, watching the world go by. People pass, their lives vibrant and full of purpose, while I remain an observer, disconnected and unseen. I wonder if they notice me, if they see the lonely man behind the glass. But I know they don't. To them, I am invisible, a ghost in my own home. The nights are the hardest. As darkness falls, my thoughts turn inward, and the silence becomes a mirror, reflecting my deepest fears and regrets. I think of the opportunities missed, the relationships that never were, and the love that remains an elusive dream. I think of the friends who have drifted away, their promises of friendship now empty words carried away by the wind. Velvet senses my pain. She nuzzles my hand, her eyes full of understanding and compassion. She is my constant companion, her presence a source of comfort in the darkest moments. Her love is unwavering, a reminder that I am not entirely alone. Chapter 6. A Glimpse of Hope. One evening, as the sun sets in a blaze of fiery orange and red, I decide to take a walk. Velvet and I step out into the warm, humid air, the familiar sense of summer enveloping us. We walk through the quiet streets, the sounds of distant laughter and music drifting on the breeze. We reach the park, a small oasis of green in the midst of the urban sprawl. Velvet bounds ahead, her tail wagging with excitement. I watch her, a small smile tugging at my lips. In her joy, I find a spark of happiness, a brief respite from the weight of my loneliness. As I sit on a bench, watching Velvet play, a woman approaches. She has a warm smile and kind eyes, and she sits down beside me. We strike up a conversation, our words flowing easily. She tells me her name is Eliza, and she comes to the park often with her own dog, a friendly Labrador named Max. Our conversation stretches into the evening, and for the first time in years, I feel a connection. It is a small thing, a simple conversation, but it fills me with a sense of hope. Perhaps I am not as alone as I thought. Perhaps there are still connections to be made, still moments of joy to be found. Chapter 7. New Beginning. Days turn into weeks, and Eliza and I meet often at the park. Our friendship blossoms, a beacon of light in the darkness. She introduces me to her friends, and slowly my world begins to expand. I find myself smiling more, the weight of my loneliness lifting with each passing day. Velvet and Max become fast friends, their playful antics a source of endless amusement. They are a reminder of the simple joys in life, the moments of connection that make the struggle worthwhile. I begin to write again, my words flowing with a new sense of purpose. I pour my heart into my stories, weaving tales of love and loss, of hope and despair. My writing becomes a lifeline, a way to process my emotions and connect with the world. Chapter 8. The Healing Touch. As time passes, my fears of dying alone begin to fade. I am still afraid of many things, but I am no longer paralyzed by my loneliness. I have found a community, a group of friends who care, who see me for who I am. They have become my support system. Discover the unique world of Thomas Miller with NFT books. Dive into the exclusive collection of poems and stories by the acclaimed author, Thomas Miller, available only at NFT books. Experience the magic of literature like never before through the innovative platform of NFT books, where each piece is a treasure waiting to be unlocked. Oh, Where Have Our Kids Gone? By Thomas Miller. Oh, where have our kids gone? In the streets they stray and roam. Defiant eyes cast shadows, in twilight zones they call home. Their laughter once as clear as bells, now echoes faint and hollow. For they march to sombre drumbeats, down paths too dark to follow. In the grasp of unseen tempests, they spiral down so deep, into nightmares of their making, where angels fear to creep. Rebellion's fire brands their hearts, with each wild, reckless flight. They dance upon the precipice, in the fading edge of light. Yet amidst this chaos brewing, there stands a hopeful few, whose spirits have not faltered, whose hearts remain as true. To these gentle souls, blessed be, your journey is not forlorn. May love's light guide your pathway, like the breaking of the morn. For you who hold the future, in the cradle of your hands, may you foster seeds of kindness across these troubled lands. Raise children with the courage to counteract the night, to be beacons through the darkness, to bear the torch of right. So, oh, where have our kids gone? It's for us to lead the way, to guide them back from precipices into the warmth of day, where each child may find refuge in love's enduring nest, to rise as fathers, mothers by such grace, we shall be blessed. Echoes of a Lost Chord by Thomas Miller. In the flourishing year of 1904, America was a nation on the brink of greatness, its ambitions charged with the electric promise of progress. Thomas, a humble man with a gentle soul, and Harriet, his vivacious wife, were the epitome of a love story penned by the hands of fate. They lived their lives in harmony, often finishing each other's sentences, their laughter blending seamlessly with the lively ragtime tunes filling their small town's air. However, as the winds of change brought whispers of prohibition, a looming era of sin and secrecy, so too did they usher in shadows that would eventually cloud their blissful union. The couple, once inseparable, found their bond tested as the 1920s roared into life. The world around them buzzed with new ideas and bold movements, but not all change was for the better. By the early 1930s, their marriage had become a facade, masking the painful truth of Harriet's affair with Herman, the neighbor next door. The gossip that once simmered in hushed tones now roared in the streets, and Thomas, caught in a tormenting love triangle, was pushed to the brink. In a fit of rage born from a broken heart, he committed the unthinkable, ending the lives of Harriet and Herman. Convicted and condemned, Thomas was imprisoned, his spirit as confined as his body. The years in his cell passed with the slow agony of a man who had lost everything. He was a shadow, a whisper among the other inmates, known yet unknowable. His grief and guilt were his only companions until, in a final act of despair, Thomas took his own life. His last agonized scream echoed through the prison corridors, a haunting reminder of his tragic end. Unbeknownst to Thomas, he left behind a son, Herbert, who had grown up in the cold embrace of an orphanage. When Herbert learned of his father's death, he wished for nothing more than to have known the man behind the name. As a mortician, Herbert took it upon himself to prepare his father's body, a solemn task that brought him no closure, only more questions. The funeral was a silent affair, attended only by Herbert and the lifeless form of the man he could never call father. As he mourned alone, a mysterious woman entered the funeral home. Her presence was as startling as it was intriguing: bright red hair, captivating eyes, and a sorrowful beauty. She introduced herself as Jez, Herbert's mother, and revealed her own hidden past with Thomas. All night, Herbert and Jez talked, unraveling the tangled threads of their family's history. Jez apologized for her absence. explaining the complexities and fears that kept her away. As dawn broke, Herbert realized that while he could never reclaim the years lost with his father, he could build something new with his mother. In the quiet aftermath of revelation, as he sat in his office surrounded by the tools of his trade, Herbert understood that love, though often born of pain, has the power to heal and transform. His life, once shadowed by his father's sins, now held the possibility of forgiveness and new beginnings. In the echo of a lost chord, Herbert found